It all begins with a simple moment, one of those moments we often overlook, yet it carries the power to reshape a life. The young girl, distracted and frustrated with her own world, crosses paths with an elderly blind man sitting quietly by the roadside. She notices that despite his condition, there is no fear, no rush, no bitterness on his face. Instead, there is a strange calmness, as if he sees something she can't. Curiosity pulls her closer. She thinks she might help him, guide him, or offer him something he might need. But as soon as he speaks, his voice carrying a depth she has never heard before, she realizes something unexpected: this man doesn't need her guidance. In fact, he carries a kind of wisdom she has been searching for without even knowing it. And in that moment, her life takes a quiet but powerful turn. Slowly, the girl begins to recognize that the real blindness in her life was never in her eyes, it was in her heart. She starts noticing how many moments she allowed anger, impatience, and fear to control her reactions. The blind man never tells her what to change, he simply shows her how he lives, and that becomes the lesson itself. She watches how he appreciates things she overlooked for years, how he smiles at small joys she used to rush past, how he finds clarity in silence while she was always searching for answers in noise. She begins practicing what he teaches, pausing before speaking, listening before judging, observing before reacting. And with every step, she feels a new kind of vision opening inside her. For the first time, she isn't just seeing the world, she is understanding it. As their conversations grow deeper, the blind man begins to teach her something she never learned in school: how differently every person experiences the world. He explains that sight is only one perspective, and even people with perfect vision often fail to truly understand what's in front of them. He tells her that when you can't rely on your eyes, you learn to rely on your heart, your intuition, and your empathy. You start listening more closely, feeling more gently, and understanding more openly. She realizes how often she judged people based on appearances, how quickly she formed opinions without knowing their stories. With him, she learns to slow down, to think before reacting, to consider that every person carries battles she knows nothing about. And in this quiet shift, she discovers that real maturity is not about seeing more, it's about understanding deeper. Over the days that follow, the girl begins to observe the blind man more closely, not out of pity, but out of admiration. Every small action he takes requires effort, finding his way, recognizing voices, even sensing obstacles, but not once does he complain or express frustration. Instead, he moves with patience, steady and calm, as if life has taught him to breathe through every difficulty. She watches him smile at moments she would usually get irritated by, and she wonders how he manages it. When she finally asks him, he tells her that strength doesn't come from being able to see the path, it comes from trusting yourself enough to walk it anyway. His words settle in her heart more deeply than she expected. She realizes that the fears she carries, the anger she holds, and the doubts she hides are far heavier than his blindness. And quietly, she begins to learn what true courage looks like. As they spend more time together, the girl begins to notice something strange: this blind man seems to understand the world more clearly than people who can see. He tells her gently that eyes are only one way of looking at life, and often, they distract us from what truly matters. He asks her to close her eyes for a moment and simply listen. At first, she hears nothing but noise, but slowly, the world begins to reveal itself in new layers: the wind brushing against leaves, distant footsteps, the rhythm of life she always ignored. He explains that real vision comes from paying attention, from feeling the world instead of just looking at it. She starts realizing how much beauty she has missed by rushing, complaining, and assuming everything must be seen to be understood. Step by step, he teaches her that true sight begins where ordinary eyesight ends. The day eventually comes when their paths must separate, and the girl feels a heaviness in her chest she wasn't prepared for. She has grown so used to his presence, his calm voice, his quiet wisdom, that she can't imagine going back to the world she lived in before him. As they sit together one last time, the blind man gently reminds her that everything he taught her was never meant to keep her by his side, it was meant to guide her long after he's gone. He tells her that vision is a blessing, but insight is a choice she must make every single day. She looks at him, realizing how profoundly he has changed her without ever asking for anything in return. He smiles, sensing her emotions without needing to see them, and leaves her with a final message she will carry for the rest of her life: the clearest vision comes from within.